The screen flickered, a blank canvas awaiting its master. My fingers, trembling slightly, hovered over the keyboard. It was time. Time to tell a story I never thought I'd live, let alone share. A story of betrayal, of hidden resilience, and of a ghost in the financial machine. The email landed in my inbox like a digital slap across the face. Account balance, $0. My breath hitched. For a moment I thought it was a scam, a cruel phishing attempt. But then, a cold dread snaked its way into my stomach as I clicked on the link, logging into our joint savings account. The numbers stared back at me, stark and unforgiving. 0. A big, fat, humiliating 0 where once sat the comfortable sum we'd meticulously built for our future. Our future. He was gone. No note. No warning. Just an empty bank account and a void where his presence used to be. The house felt too quiet, the air thick with unspoken goodbyes. I walked through the rooms, touching objects that were once ours, but now felt tainted, alien. The worn armchair where he'd read the paper every morning, the coffee mug still on the counter, a faint ring of dried coffee at the bottom. Each item a tiny, sharp jab to the heart. Days blurred into a haze of disbelief and despair. I replayed every conversation, every smile, every shared dream, searching for a sign, a clue I'd missed. Had I been so blind, so naive? The anger was a slow burn, simmering beneath the surface, threatening to erupt. But mostly, it was the raw ache of betrayal, a wound deeper than any physical pain. Then, amidst the wreckage of my shattered world, a thought, barely a whisper at first, began to form. A tiny seed of hope in a barren landscape. The second account. It was a small, almost forgotten detail in the grand scheme of our lives, a relic from a time before ours became the dominant pronoun. I had opened it years ago, long before I met him, a personal emergency fund, a just-in-case stash that, ironically, I'd completely forgotten about in the whirlwind of our shared finances. He never knew. It wasn't a secret kept out of malice, but simply an oversight, a forgotten corner of my independent life that had never merged with our joint ventures. My fingers, still trembling but now with a flicker of nascent hope, typed in the old login credentials. The screen whirred, and then a number appeared. Not 0. A modest sum, certainly not enough to rebuild everything, but enough. Enough for a few months of rent, enough for groceries, enough to breathe. It was a lifeline thrown to a drowning woman, unexpected and utterly vital. A wave of something akin to defiant laughter bubbled up in my chest. He had tried to erase me, to leave me destitute, a collateral casualty of his vanishing act. But he had failed. The ghost in the machine, my forgotten digital past, had materialized, a silent protector. The immediate panic receded, replaced by a cold, calculating resolve. I wouldn't just survive. I would rebuild. Not for him, not for us, but for me. This wasn't just about money. It was about agency, about reclaiming my power from the ashes of his betrayal. The second account wasn't just a financial buffer. It was a symbol, a testament to a part of me he could never touch, never control. The first step was to secure it, to ensure that this last bastion of my financial independence was impenetrable. I changed all the passwords, updated security questions, and even considered a new bank, just for the psychological fresh start. The methodical nature of these tasks was surprisingly therapeutic, a tangible way to channel the chaotic energy swirling within me. Then I started to plan. Small, careful steps at first. A budget tighter than any I'd ever followed. Reaching out to old friends, hesitant at first to admit the wreckage of my life, but finding unexpected comfort and strength in their unwavering support. Each small victory, each secured bill, each new connection, chipped away at the despair and built up a fragile but growing sense of self-reliance. The path ahead was still daunting, but for the first time since he left, I saw a path. And I was on it, alone but not lost. The silence in the house, once a heavy blanket of despair, slowly began to transform. It became a canvas for my own thoughts, a space for rebuilding. The initial shock had dulled, replaced by a quiet determination. The second account, that hidden lifeline, allowed me the luxury of time. Time to process, time to plan, and most importantly, time to heal without the immediate pressure of financial collapse. My mornings started with a new ritual. Not scrolling through old photos, but meticulously organizing my finances. I set up spreadsheets tracking every cent, every bill. It was tedious, sometimes overwhelming, but each line item represented a tiny step forward. I canceled subscriptions we'd shared, redirected mail, and systematically erased his digital footprint from my life. Each click of the mouse, each phone call to customer service, was an act of severance, a declaration of independence. The emotional fallout, however, wasn't as easily quantifiable. There were days the anger flared, a hot, consuming fire that left me breathless. Other days, a profound sadness would descend, a longing for the future that had been so cruelly snatched away. But I refused to wallow. I started small. A walk in the park, a coffee with a friend I hadn't seen in ages, rediscovering hobbies I'd pushed aside. I even took a pottery class, the feel of the clay grounding me, shaping something new and beautiful from nothing. The biggest challenge was confronting the narrative I'd built around us. For so long, my identity had been intertwined with his. Now I was learning to be me again, a solo entity. It was daunting, exhilarating, and at times incredibly lonely. Yet, with each small victory, a new skill learned, a bill paid on time, a hearty laugh shared with a friend, the pieces of my fractured self began to knit back together. The second account wasn't just money. It was the quiet confidence that I had a safety net, a secret weapon in my arsenal, allowing me to take risks and truly invest in my own future. He had tried to break me, but instead, he had unwittingly forged a stronger, more resilient version of myself. The quiet determination that had taken root within me began to blossom into something more profound, an unshakable confidence. The second account wasn't just a safety net. It was the launching pad for a new life. With the immediate financial pressure lifted, my mind, once consumed by anxiety, now had room for creative thought, for ambition. I started small. I'd always dabbled in freelance graphic design in my spare time, a passion project that had taken a backseat to our shared life. Now, with more time and a burning desire to prove my self-sufficiency, I poured myself into it. I updated my portfolio, reached out to old contacts, and even took on a few pro bono projects to build momentum. The initial gigs were modest, but each completed design, each positive client review, was a tangible affirmation of my capabilities. It was more than just earning money. It was about creating something new, something that was entirely mine. As my client base grew, so did my confidence. The work became a joyful distraction, a focus that pulled me away from the lingering shadows of betrayal. I found myself working late into the night, not out of necessity, but out of genuine enjoyment. The house, once echoing with his absence, now buzzed with the quiet hum of my computer, the rustle of design sketches, and the occasional celebratory sigh as a project came to life. And then an unexpected opportunity arose. A former colleague, impressed by my newfound dedication and the quality of my freelance work, offered me a contract position at a startup. It wasn't a full-time commitment, but it was a significant step up, offering more stable income and a chance to collaborate with a team again. The idea of re-entering a professional environment after so long was daunting, but also incredibly exciting. It felt like a true turning point, a recognition of my skills and resilience beyond the confines of my personal struggles. The ghost in the machine, my secret financial stash, had not only saved me from ruin but had also empowered me to redefine my future. It was a stark reminder that even in the darkest moments, hidden resources and an unwavering spirit can light the way to a new horizon. The new contract position at the startup was a whirlwind. My days became a vibrant tapestry of meetings, brainstorming sessions, and the satisfying click of a mouse as designs took shape. The energy of the young company was infectious, and for the first time in a long time, I felt genuinely engaged, my mind buzzing with creative solutions and fresh ideas. It was a stark contrast to the suffocating quiet of the months after he left. Here, my contributions were valued, my expertise acknowledged, and my identity wasn't tied to anyone else's. Working alongside a team, collaborating on projects, and tackling new challenges ignited a spark I hadn't realized had been dulled. I learned new software, adopted agile methodologies, and even found myself mentoring junior designers. Each successful project, each positive feedback from a client, was a small but significant victory, not just for my career but for my spirit. The long hours didn't feel like a burden. They felt like an investment in myself, a tangible manifestation of my hard-won independence. Outside of work, my life also began to find a new rhythm. The pottery class I'd started became a weekly anchor, a meditative space where I could lose myself in the tactile creation of something beautiful. I reconnected with old friends, forging deeper bonds built on shared experiences and genuine support. The loneliness that had sometimes crept in began to recede, replaced by a quiet contentment, a sense of being truly present in my own life. The shadow of his betrayal hadn't completely vanished, but it no longer loomed over me. It was more like a scar, a reminder of a past wound that had healed, leaving behind a stronger, more resilient self. The second account, that hidden lifeline, had given me the crucial breathing room to build this new reality. It wasn't just about financial security. It was about the profound sense of self-worth and agency it had afforded me. I had faced the void and, armed with a secret strength, had rebuilt my world, brick by painstaking brick. The hum of my laptop, the faint scent of clay from my latest pottery piece, the occasional murmur of the city outside my window. These were the new sounds of my life. The vibrant rhythm of the startup and the quietude of my personal space had become a harmonious blend. The last vestiges of the bitterness and hurt from his departure began to fade, replaced by a profound sense of peace. The emotional closure didn't arrive in a dramatic epiphany, but rather in a series of quiet moments. It was in the casual way I referred to my apartment instead of the house, or how I'd instinctively make plans for just myself, without a phantom us in the background. It was in the realization that I could look at old photos, not with a pang of regret, but with a detached acceptance of a chapter closed. The anger had burned itself out, leaving behind only the ash of experience. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving, and his absence was no longer a wound, but a silent catalyst for my growth. One evening, while organizing old documents, I stumbled upon a small box filled with mementos from our relationship. There were movie tickets, a dried flower from a forgotten anniversary, a handwritten note. Instead of the familiar ache, I felt a strange detachment. It was like looking at artifacts from someone else's life. There was no overwhelming sadness, no surge of anger. Just a quiet acknowledgement of a past that had shaped me but no longer defined me. I didn't burn them or throw them out in a fit of catharsis. I simply resealed the box and placed it back in the closet, a quiet, symbolic act of putting the past where it belonged, behind me. The true closure came from within. It wasn't about his apology or his return, or any external validation. It was about my own journey of self-discovery and resilience. The hidden account had been the initial spark, the critical financial buffer that allowed me to stand on my own 2 feet. But it was my own strength, my willingness to rebuild, and my embrace of a new future that truly cemented my independence. I was no longer the woman he had tried to abandon. I was the woman who had risen from the ashes, stronger, wiser, and unequivocally free. With the past firmly in its place, a space opened up within me, a space for dreams long deferred. My graphic design career was flourishing, and the startup provided an invigorating challenge, but there was a deeper, quieter yearning that had always existed, a whisper I'd often silenced in the clamor of everyday life. It was the dream of travel, not just as a tourist, but as an explorer, immersing myself in new cultures, seeing the world through a different lens. It wasn't a sudden impulse. It had been a simmering desire, a collection of whispered promises to myself tucked away for someday. Now, with financial stability provided by my secret account and newfound professional confidence, someday felt remarkably close. I started with small steps: evening language classes, poring over travel blogs, and devouring documentaries about faraway lands. The idea of trading my comfortable routine for the unknown was both exhilarating and terrifying, but the fear was overshadowed by a profound sense of freedom. My work at the startup allowed for remote flexibility, a crucial piece of the puzzle. I began to save even more diligently, earmarking a portion of every freelance payment and startup bonus for my travel fund. The numbers in my independent account grew, not just as a safety net, but as a direct path to this new adventure. It wasn't about escaping my life. It was about expanding it, about experiencing the world on my own terms. The initial plan was vague. Southeast Asia. The vibrant colors, the bustling markets, the ancient temples. Images that had long danced in my imagination. I envisioned myself sketching in quaint cafes, capturing the essence of local life, perhaps even combining my design skills with my travels. The ghost in the machine, my secret financial foundation, had given me not just a second chance at life, but the audacious courage to finally reach for a dream I had once thought unreachable. The dream of Southeast Asia began to take tangible shape. My apartment transformed into a planning hub, maps spread across the dining table, guidebooks dog-eared and highlighted, a corkboard slowly filling with printouts of temples, street food, and pristine beaches. I meticulously researched visas, vaccinations, and the most cost-effective ways to travel, balancing my desire for authentic experiences with the practicalities of a long-term journey. The flexibility of my startup contract was a godsend, allowing me to plan my workload around my departure date. My first destination was Thailand. The vibrant chaos of Bangkok called to me, a stark contrast to the quiet routine I'd built. From there, I envisioned slow travel through northern Thailand, exploring ancient ruins and lush landscapes, before heading south to the idyllic islands. It wasn't just about sightseeing, it was about truly immersing myself, learning basic phrases, trying new foods, and allowing myself to be open to whatever experiences came my way. The emotional preparation was as important as the logistical. I spent time with close friends, sharing my excitement and the underlying nerves of embarking on such a significant solo adventure. Their support was invaluable, a reminder that while I was traveling alone, I wasn't truly alone in the world. I streamlined my possessions, donating clothes and books, embracing a minimalist mindset that felt incredibly liberating. The less I carried, the freer I felt. The day of departure arrived with a mix of exhilaration and a familiar, comforting sense of calm. The taxi ride to the airport felt different this time. There was no shared future being left behind, no ghost in the passenger seat. Just me, my passport, a carefully packed backpack, and the knowledge that my secret financial lifeline had made this audacious leap possible. As I checked in, a sense of profound gratitude washed over me. Not just for the money, but for the resilience it had nurtured, the freedom it had bought, and the unwritten chapters that now stretched before me. The world was vast, and for the first time in a long time so was my horizon. This wasn't an escape. It was an arrival,